Hey, this is Charles Onyet here with Anthony Gallegos from IGN.
Hello.
And we are playing Diablo 3. I'm just showing off my Barbarian here.
He looks ridiculously cool now. Now, you are on Hell difficulty, so you've accessed some really interesting sets of armor, like the giant plume and gigantic ram horns coming out. He definitely is the most barbarian-looking barbarian I've seen to date.
Look what happens when you just spin him around. Like, there's some kind of physics involved with the plume on the top of his helmet. I just found that last night, so it does spin around a little bit. I'm not a big fan of the plume. I do like the horns, though.
I do think it's interesting, though, that you're a barbarian using a one-hander and shield. You don't see that much at this point. Like, in my experience, multiplayer. Most of my friends are using two-handers at this point, but also they're not on Hell.
Okay,
so.
Yeah, I mean, so I have Hell difficulty unlocked. You have to go through the game on Normal and Nightmare to get Hell, and then I'm working towards Inferno.
On your own.
Yeah, I find that I need the shield in order to survive. Here, I'll jump in the game.
Yeah, I mean, and you're playing by yourself too, which a lot of people through Nightmare and Hell haven't been doing. I mean, that's a daunting task on its own.
Yeah, I've been soloing for most of the game. By the way, spoilers. This is Act 3. Nothing crazy is going to happen here, but
man, your Templar is even level 58. Wow.
Yeah. So one of the cool things I saw about the followers is that their armor will actually change as they level up.
Yeah, your Templar looks way cooler than mine.
So he has a different armor set, and I mean, you can equip them with items as well. So I gave him a special shield. But see, I can stand toe-to-toe with heavy hitters like that guy who I just knocked out, who exploded, just because I do have so much armor. And here, let me look at the follower. I just gave him the shield, which is kind of I wish I had a shield that looked like that for myself, but I don't. I have this older one. This was actually crafted. I just learned that at my artisan.
Wow. Yeah, your follower has nicer gear than some other barbarians I've seen too.
Yeah, he's really effective because he's super effective. Just because this Guardian ability, Rush to the Aid of a Wounded Ally, knocking back enemies, that's really useful. That's come in very handy just because he has heals and interrupts and that kind of thing that I've strictly been using him. Even though the Barbarian and Templar really don't have anything to say to one another. Like, if you're playing solo with a follower, your character class will just start talking to the follower and back and forth. Their dialogue is not very good.
No, I mean, they're both...
And I do like a lot of the... Like, I think the Scoundrel's hilarious.
Exactly, yeah, but they're both really just stern warriors.
Yeah, they're both just super serious, and it's just like, oh, enough already. They're like, do you like battle? Yes, me too. Great, let's keep killing stuff. It's like, was that necessary?
It's interesting seeing how much health you're constantly popping up or genning with all the abilities you have, too.
Yeah, so I have... oh god, I'm totally gonna die here. I have to retreat. So I'm using an older... Ooh, healing well. I'm using an older style... Oh god, I hate these guys with the stupid claws through the ground. These heralds of pestilence.
They might be one of the hardest creatures to fight, especially when they're in a group like the two up in the top right. They're coming for you.
Yeah, they're gonna start doing that stupid hand attack, and it's difficult to see... Yeah, here they go. It's difficult to see in large groups. Here,
yeah, it really does catch up on you.
And they do a lot of damage if you let that just sort of go... if you don't go directly after them, and I will. Thankfully, a health globe dropped there. Oh, so my Templar's taking care of one of them, so that's another useful aspect of things. Is you can really distract targets effectively.
So though you can tell that you're much farther in the game. Obviously, this is Hell difficulty, because look at the size of the numbers popping off of your guys' hits.
Yeah, so I mean, you don't necessarily need to have those damage numbers up, and I think by default they're not up.
Yeah,
that's just in an options menu. I just like numbers. I like, I mean, you can have crit bonuses pop up there. My follower just came back. But I also just have standard damage pop up, as well as healing, so I can see how much I'm regenerating all the time. I know if you don't have that, it may look a little distracting, but I like that sort of information on screen.
And I think, yeah, it's a good idea if you want to see how much your character's progressing, because you're like, oh, now I can see that I'm clearly regenning a lot more than I used to.
Yeah, exactly. So it's not just, you get more of a direct sense of your items having an effect, because items are so important in this game, and I know it's a loot game, and you know, people have certain associations with loot games. It's like, oh, it's just a mindless grind or something like that for more items, but it really does feel like your character is gaining in power when you find new items in this game, just because I found that they have such a noticeable effect on your performance in combat. Like when I upgraded my shield to this one from the old one,
started taking a lot less damage.
I noticed that I was blocking more and that I was not dying as quickly.
Oh god, Charles.
It had an effect. Oh my god. And here is by far the hardest part of the game. I mean, there are giant bosses in Diablo 3. that are kind of a challenge, but with a Barbarian, I can pretty much destroy them. I have not had issues with major boss fights as a Barbarian soloing them at all, and I know other people playing other classes do have more of an issue with solo boss encounters. Like I helped out a buddy last night. He was playing a Demon Hunter. He was trying to beat up the Butcher on Hell difficulty and couldn't do it by himself because the Butcher's charge attack was basically one-shotting them.
Yeah.
Even though he had roughly the same amount of health that I do.
His armor's probably not anywhere near as good because you have so much strength.
Yeah, I think it basically has to do with armor. But yeah, I hopped in there and I just tanked him the whole time and was fine. I mean, I wasn't really in danger of dying like I am now. Oh God!
The enemy combination you're fighting, it's a good example, right? Like there are bosses that are really strong, but it's these randomly generated ones with effects like these guys, which
nope.
these guys have. These guys have both arcane ability, which is why they're dropping those purple lasers, and they're molten. And he has all these minions following him that all have those same abilities. So that means they're just trailing fire that's just ready to toast Charles if you ever stand still.
I'm basically waiting for a good opportunity to strike. I'm trying to build up some health here. I haven't actually gone through my skill build yet, which I should. My follower's dead again.
Yeah, he pretty much keeps dying, standing up, and dying again.
So I can go through my skill build if I can manage to clear this, but oh crap. All right, I died.
Yeah, that's a really tough group right there. Arcane, Enchanted, Molten. My God.
Yeah, and Desecrator. So the Desecrator behavior basically puts those giant... Ooh, my health well's back. Puts those giant circles of flame on the ground that will just do damage over time. However, I have Ignore Pain here, which reduces incoming damage for a little bit. I also have it modded with a Reflect ability. So
nice.
I can stand in that Desecrator pool and reflect damage. Let's see if somebody here. All right, so there, I turned it on. You can see the damage numbers flying up over the boss there. That's just damage reflected from the Desecrator pool. It's actually pretty effective. And I can also go Super Saiyan.
It really does look Super Saiyan.
Destroy everything. Oh God, there's so many arcane things popping up here. I have to move. I'm not invincible. But this is really helpful for surviving these packs, just because it'll let me, I'll pretty much be able to kill like 1 or 2 minions, which makes a huge difference because taking on single targets, I'm good with the Barbarian. Like I'm okay in that regard.
Yeah, you're pretty amazing for it.
But in these large packs like this, there's just so much incoming damage, and I don't have any of the Barbarian's mobility skills enabled right now, like Leap.
Right, because you're hooked up.
Furious Charge or Sprint, just because I'm basically in a tanking build right now. Here I'm doing Reflect Damage again. You can see the damage numbers going up over top of the boss. So I'm good for about 5 seconds there before I need to get out, and I'll use my Healing Well.
This is pretty impressive, though. I mean, like, the thing is that I play a Witch Doctor, and it's really hard for me to take on these groups by myself, but you're actually, like, this is, like, where the real skill comes in, right? You are kiting to an extent, but you're also just more like wisely using your skills.
Yeah, I really need to pay attention to not just the base skill, to the rune effect. You can't just randomly assign that stuff. There are definitely builds that work better in certain situations, and this tank heavy build with a lot of heals that I have here happens to work well. The one skill that isn't really, that I just put on for fun because I learned it recently, was Whirlwind, which consumes rage, and basically it adds a fire effect. So I just turn into this whirling fire dervish with this active, which doesn't really help me in these situations because I need health back. But I have my 1 and 2 skills right now. Revenge, by its standard function is to restore health, and I just have it modded so that it actually, Healing Well, so it actually comes back more often, because it's not active by default, and it has every time you're hit, it has a chance to activate like it did there. So I have it modded so that it has an increased chance of happening. And that I found, that skill, Revenge, is something I never unequip. I always have Revenge on here. Here I'm reflecting damage.
Oh my God.
You can see all the numbers going up, so that's actually...
That Desecrator worked in your favor.
Yeah, to my advantage in that case.
It's interesting, too, seeing how much like certain things in the design changed. Like I actually never found Healing Wells all that useful or necessary in like even Nightmare. But once you get into Hell, it's like those are like big boons to find those.
It does change the game quite a bit across difficulty settings, and I don't want to be the guy that's like, oh, you haven't played the game until you get higher difficulty settings. but you really haven't played the game
Well,
until you get to higher difficulty
You've played
settings.
it, but it's a different game each time around.
Yeah,
like you need different stats. You need to focus on different like levels of armor and.
Normal is so easy, and I mean, compared to this, where you really do have to think, like I was doing right there, and in that fight, oh god, fire chains are the worst.
You can't find.
Ow.
Oh wow! You can't even find like certain magical essences. You need magical items from the hell level to break down to build even better things. So there, you have to play in these other difficulties if you want to continue to build up things like your blacksmithing as well.
Yeah, the transition from Nightmare into Hell was pretty jarring, because Nightmare I was doing all right. I got through. I killed Diablo. Started up in Hell. And like the first wretched mother that's right outside of New Tristram just killed me, and I was like, "Oh my god, what am I gonna do?"
Health chains, health link, fire chain, molten.
Yeah, so fire chains, just to explain what's going on here. So as you bump up difficulties, enemies will have more modifiers, so they have 3 here. I'm assuming, I'm not in Inferno yet, I assume they have more.
Yeah, in basic, in regular they just have 1, Nightmare they have 2, now they have 3.
So fire chains, the enemies are programmed so that they will try to surround you. You'll see them trying to surround, and then they link fire chains between each other that just does crazy damage.
Yeah.
These guys also have health link, which means that my damage, I believe, is shared between them, so it's more difficult to kind of kill one of them individually, and then they have Molten where they're trailing this fire behind them. One of the most irritating combinations I've found so far is Jailer and Fire Chains. Now, Jailer is where the enemy will actually root you in place for a small amount of time. Not a huge amount of... Oops, I just pulled something off my skill bar. That was dumb. I should probably get that back. Yeah, Jailer will root you in one spot so that you can't move, and then they will surround you with fire chains and just destroy you that way. And basically what I'm going to do here is go Super Saiyan and see if I can take one of these guys out. I'm going to go reflect damage, and they're going to go fire chains, and I have to get out of there, because even with reflecting damage, I am not going to be able to do much. Oh god, get out.
The healing well's up.
Get out. That in situations like that is where something like Leap is really useful, because I can jump out of trap situations like that. And also, some enemies have Waller modifiers, so they will wall you in one spot. It's not Jailer, where they basically root you where you're standing. Waller gives you a little bit of space to move around in. But if I have Leap, I can actually just hop out of that area, which is obviously better than standing in there and being subject to whatever punishment they have incoming.
I think it's really interesting too that like you playing on Hell here kind of shows how ridiculous it is, in the sense that if we were playing the amount of time we've spent here, if we were playing normal or even Nightmare, you'd probably have uncovered like a quarter or more of the map. But in the time that we've spent here, you've basically never been able to get off this bridge so far.
It's true. I mean, you can't. The progress is so much slower. And here's what I accidentally pulled off my skill bar, which is Overpower, which is a really cool skill. It's better with crit builds because basically the cooldown on this is reduced every time. I mean, it's a 15-second cooldown, so it's fairly long for Diablo, considering how fast this game is. But it's reduced every time you land a critical hit. So if you build a Barbarian that can crit a lot, which you can do, there are passive skills and a whole bunch of ways to boost your crit rating, including how you socket items. Like, for instance, I have a gem in here that adds life with every hit, but I could have something that's like a 40% bonus to crit damage. So I do much higher crits, and then there are ways to increase your crit percentage across passive skills as well. But this basically, for every enemy hit, since it's an AoE, will heal me, so that's why I'm using it right now.
Yeah, I mean, Charles Barbarian is pretty amazing, but he's also he's working on his final level. You will hit the level cap soon.
Yeah, I am level 59. I'm hoping to hit 60 hit 60 very soon. These guys do crazy damage with single hits, and I have to go toe-to-toe with them, basically. Ow.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Thankfully, I killed him. But yeah, that is where using something like my damage reflect on Ignore Pain, which reduces incoming damage as well as reflects, is incredibly useful. And I found this build has been probably the most effective for Hell difficulty. In previous difficulties, I was able to switch over once I gained enough gear that was native to that specific difficulty setting, I was able to switch over to more damage dealing roles and tear through enemies a little more quickly. But considering how difficult a lot of these enemies are, how much damage they will they will cause to you if you're not careful, it is really punishing. So I have needed to stick with this tanking build for now.
Have you found that maybe have you tried taking any of the other companions now that you're a lot more leveled up? Like I don't know anyone that takes the Enchantress, for instance.
Her chicken, she has a crowd control ability where she'll turn people into chickens for a small amount of time, which I guess is kind of effective. It's just I like the Templar because he does have some heals, so in case I'm all on cooldowns, my revenge isn't triggering, I'm not getting any health globes, then that's just another thing to rely on. Of course, there are potions too, but in Diablo 3, there is a cooldown on the potions, so you can't...
Yeah, pretty significant cooldown.
Yeah, so it's a 30-second cooldown, so you can't just spam potions, which is why I have not been doing that. But yeah, I mean, progress a lot slower, it's a lot more challenging, and especially those champion packs really kind of make your life.
Yeah, you're probably like 15 hours from finishing hell, if not more.
Yeah, I mean, this is basically midway through Act 3, but I will say it's still worth it because the gameplay, I mean, I find it to be a lot more fun at these levels because you're not just tearing through stuff and just getting rewards. It makes it feel like you're earning your rewards because there is that level of challenge, and I'm sure Inferno is
we can only imagine.
Hopefully it's not horribly unfair. But yeah, my axe too, like this, just the random nature of the items. This is the best thing I've found in the game so far, which it just happens to have damage bonuses and a percentage damage bonus. So it's way higher than anything else I've found.
It's higher than any two-hander I've ever seen.
And well, actually, I just found a two-hander here that is higher than that, because that also has a percentage damage bonus, and it does holy damage on top of that.
Oh
but I don't want to
God.
equip that on there, because then I lose my shield, and I have a whole bunch of resistances. I've started in Hell difficulty getting elemental resistances, so a lot of my items have plus bonuses to all elements and things like that, which you can see. I don't know if you've found this details thing yet, but this shows all your stats, so you can see exactly what you're doing. And then I have all these resistances listed out, so I am getting bonus damage reductions on all that type of thing as well. But yeah, I mean, so far I'm almost 60. I am going to get to 60, and I really want to check out Inferno because the ramp up from difficulty setting to difficulty setting is so big that I'm really excited to see what kind of items you can actually find there. And I've been trying to avoid looking at the higher level ones on the auction house because I feel like that's almost spoilers.
And your armor already looks so cool. I can only imagine.
Yeah, and I've dyed the armor so that it is desert dye, which is why it's all brown, because you can dye armors in the game.
I know, and I thought that was going to be something so dumb that I would never do, but I do it all the time.
And dye's expensive too.
Yeah, it is.
It's not cheap. Here, I'll just portal back to town real quick, and show off the artisans. I'm sort of at the cap for what I can do right now. It seems like Blizzard limits you per difficulty setting of how far you can train your blacksmith. He's at level 8. Wow. I need Tomes of Secrets now in order to train him further, and that I can't find those on those difficulty. I believe Tome of Secrets are Inferno only.
Have you found any new recipes since you've been playing in Hell?
No, I haven't. In all of the time I've been playing, I've not found a single recipe or to teach him. But I know you can find those to build rarer items. And then yeah, my jeweler as well is up at. I don't have any Tomes of Secrets, so I can't do that. The crafting is super expensive at this point. It is not cheap, so it's not something you just do arbitrarily. Which I guess helps fuel the whole auction house thing. But yeah, you can see my other followers.
Oh man, your scoundrel looks so cool compared to mine.
Since their early days, they've had their appearances upgraded a little bit. The Enchantress is wearing more clothes than when you first meet her, where she's practically wearing nothing.
Your scoundrel looks truly awesome, though.
Yeah. So yeah, as I continue to play Diablo 3 and especially into Inferno, I'll be posting more videos just showing off my build, how I'm playing, items, and anything that happens to be frustrating and or cool. And for a lot more on Diablo 3, you can check out IGN.com.